I'm joined now by the Ukrainian ambassador to the U.S., Oksana Markarova. Good morning to you, Madam Ambassador. I know you heard that President Trump said on Truth Social that this could potentially be a great day for Russia and Ukraine. He's talking about the possible negotiations this week in Turkey that President Putin suggested. Is that something you are open to?
Good morning, Martha, and happy Mother's Day to everyone who listens us and watches us today. Well, you know, any day potentially could be a great day. And we have heard loud and clear from President Trump that ceasefire should be full and unconditional. And we have heard from other European leaders, and we have heard from President Zelenskyy, who always says, yes, Ukraine is ready. Nobody wants peace more than Ukraine. The question of the day is whether Russia wants it, because today 108 Shahid drones again hit residential areas in Kyiv Oblast. So we all hope and pray that all the efforts of President Trump, of European leaders who have been in Kyiv just yesterday, and of course, you know, long efforts of President Zelenskyy, not only to defend Ukraine, but also to seek peace, will bring results. And that means we will have to make Russia agree to that.
And yet, President Putin basically dismissed the idea of a ceasefire and turned to negotiations. So do you think he's just stringing you along here?
Well, we have seen it since the day he invaded Ukraine in 2022. As you know, President Zelenskyy, if you remember the peace plan and the negotiations, as soon as we thought Russians were ready to negotiate, we have sent team to different locations to negotiate. Now, we hope the situation is different. And again, President Trump's idea of full and unconditional ceasefire is a great idea. The killings have to be stopped. The attacks on civilians from Russians have to be stopped. And then, of course, we can negotiate. And President Zelenskyy today already said that, yes, Ukraine is ready to negotiate. But he put a special emphasis on ceasefire, the idea that both he and President Trump strongly supports.
What can you tell us about how the European leaders came together, went into Kyiv to meet with President Zelenskyy? How did that happen? Did Donald Trump bring them together? Well,
you know, this week is very important for us in Europe and globally. May 8th is the end of the World War II, and 80% of the World War II European theater was in Ukraine. You know, Ukraine suffered the most. We have had horrible destructions during the World War II. We have had Holocaust at our territory, lost so many, not only Ukrainians, but our Jewish brothers and sisters. It was a horrible war. And I just want to remind, started by Soviet Union and Nazi regimes. And for us, it's important to get together with everyone who fought against Nazi in Kyiv. And the 9th of May, which unfortunately we have seen President Xi and other leaders in Moscow cheering actually to Shahid drones, which have been flown through the Red Square, while we have been celebrating with European leaders the Europe Day. And, you know, Ukraine is moving into Europe. So I think clearly we see here the countries aligning with the values in which they believe in. We believe in democracy, peace, we believe in freedom. And that's why European leaders have been in Kyiv yesterday, and you have seen they call themselves the Coalition of the Willing, and that's why we are coordinating closely with American friends, with people who want to stop this war and go into rebuilding and reconstruction, something that made U.S. and Europe strong after the World War II, and something that both
Ambassador?
of our... Yes.
Sorry to interrupt you there. You also heard Dmitry Peskov in that piece from Moscow saying if there was a ceasefire, the Russians wanted the U.S. and Europe to stop arming Ukraine. Would that be a non-starter for Ukraine?
Martha, he also said that they're ready to unconditional ceasefire, and just a day after that, they decided to change their mind. So, look, Ukraine is a sovereign country, and we are only defending ourselves. And we need all the support and weapons in order to be able to defend ourselves. We never attacked Russia. We never planned to attack Russia. So let's focus on ceasefire. If they are serious, they should agree on full and unconditional ceasefire.
You have heard the push from President Trump, obviously, and things he has said about the Russians and Keith Kellogg and J.D. Vance. The tone has really changed from the president and top administration officials. And we remember that day in February, you were there head in hand in the Oval Office when there was a fight in the Oval Office between President Trump and President Zelenskyy. How did that change? How did they heal those wounds and end up here at the funeral of Pope Francis in that very intimate moment with those images of the two of them talking? What happened?
Martha, President Zelenskyy and President Trump had a number of great meetings, starting from last September, if you remember, in New York. And we always focused our discussions on what can we do together as strategic friends and allies. And that's why just recently we signed this comprehensive economic partnership agreement to create reconstruction fund for Ukraine. And that's why right now we are working towards just and lasting peace, because this is in the interest of both of our nations. So, look, we will focus on the future, and sometimes friends can disagree, but that's disagreement among friends. We all have the same goals of sovereign and prosperous Ukraine, as we have heard from our leadership and your leadership. And we all have the same goal on doing something together to the benefit of our nations. Both America and Ukraine can be stronger together.
Okay, thanks so much for joining us this morning, Ambassador. Good to see you.